welcome back. Okay, we're diving straight into the blueprint for the emergence, Ep.01. This one sets up the whole thing. Leviathan and Magmox appearing off Tokyo.
Yeah, and that big reveal, right? The monsters aren't actually fighting us. They're fighting each other.
Exactly, which is a great hook.
It is. It's inherently strong material. Sets up this intelligent conflict from the get-go. But, thinking about it as the first move in a bigger game, which it clearly wants to be. There are maybe ways to embed those long-term ideas, those themes, even earlier, right from the start.
Okay, so like that core duality, the Scion versus Ember thing, sea versus Earth, that seems fundamental. It's almost the visual language for the whole setup.
Visual duality, the cyan and ember, to deepen the philosophical contrast between these titans. Make it clear they're like opposed strategic forces, maybe even civilizations.
I see what you mean. The contrast is there visually. Leviathan's bioluminescence and fins, Magmox's obsidian and magma. It's striking. But looking at the scene notes, maybe the first clash feels a bit brute force.
Yeah, maybe a touch too much raw aggression. It kind of risks undercutting the strategic feel,
Right. If the endgame is this complex economy or this ancient war, their first meeting can't just be a monster smash-up.
Exactly. It needs to feel more like a calculated elemental claim on territory. The destruction, even the chaos, should feel like it has a purpose behind it, not just random explosions.
So the suggestion is, use the scene notes, the descriptions, to really push their unique strategic styles. Leviathan as this cold, fluid calculation, and Magmox as a slow, tectonic force. Even before they properly clash?
That's the idea. How do we make sure that calculation, that intent, comes through amidst all the initial chaos of them appearing?
How do we do that?
Well, we could tie it into the physics, the sound design, give them strategic actions. Like for Leviathan's emergence in scenes 01 and 02, the notes could really highlight its organized nature.
Okay.
For instance, explicitly link the visuals and sound to communication. Things like the rune flicker patterns form grammar-like phrases, or that repeating sonar ping motif, having a kind of call-response cadence.
Ah, okay, so it's not just cool effects. It suggests it's actively scanning, maybe communicating before it even attacks, analyzing the battlefield.
Precisely. It signals we're dealing with intelligence. It pulls away from just, atomic monster rampaging into something colder, almost procedural sci-fi.
That is powerful. And what about Magmox, the Earth Titan, the Defender?
For Magmox, you shift the focus completely. Make it about geological disruption. We want the audience to feel it as this immovable force reclaiming its territory.
Right.
The script needs to emphasize how its pulse, its frequency, resonates through the ground, through buildings, making, like the note says, the Earth itself becomes part of the Titan's rhythm. That really hammers home its role. The deep Earth pushing back against the abyssal invader.
So the fight becomes less about punches and more about
Elemental forces. One consuming, one stabilizing.
exactly consumption versus stabilization.
Okay, so if the Titans are making these calculated moves, these claims, what about the humans, the GDF? They're all about control, instinct. How do they react when they realize they're basically just in the way?
Well, that dynamic, human control versus this immense, indifferent chaos, that leads right into the second major point. It's about the human element, or rather, the lack of it.
Yeah, that's the core twist, isn't it? Humanity is just collateral damage. That realization from Dr. Tanaka, we need that to land hard.
It has to land hard. So strengthen that seismic moment of Dr. Tanaka's revelation, they aren't here for us, they are here for each other, by first really building up the GDF's sense of tactical control, only to snatch it away immediately. That moment Tanaka realizes it is the strongest thematic beat. But you're right, the pacing is breakneck. Emergence, scramble, clash, bang, bang, bang. Does the weight of the GDF's failure, their total irrelevance, actually come across?
Or does it just look like they got predictably steamrolled?
That's the danger.
Yeah, and that's where we can refine it. Look at Major Rostova. Her whole thing is aggressive engagement, right? Never hesitate again. If the Titans just crush the GDF fleet, well, okay, the odds were impossible. But if the Titans strategically ignore them, if they just brush the GDF aside like flies because they're focused on each other, that doesn't just show the GDF is outmatched, it invalidates Rostova's entire command philosophy. That's way richer.
That's a really key distinction. So the suggestion is visually emphasize the GDF's plan, Rostova's aggressive tactics, make us think they have a chance, that they have agency.
Right. Let the audience invest in her attempt to impose order.
And then have the Titans just dismiss them completely, which makes Tanaka's later analysis, the realization that the GDF doesn't matter, hit like a ton of bricks. It feels earned. It reframes everything.
We need to see Rostova actively trying to control the situation. Maybe expand her cockpit POV in Act 2, Scene 08. Have her actually voice frustration, try to, regain tactical control or force their hand.
Like maybe attempting a maneuver just as the Titans lock onto each other?
Exactly. She tries to impose human strategy onto this elemental event, and the Titan world just flows right past her. Her ships are just debris in their wake.
Okay, I like making Rostova more active, but does expanding her scenes risk slowing things down? The emergence needs to feel immediate, terrifying. We don't want to get stuck in, military chatter.
It's definitely a balance, pacing versus payoff. But the action doesn't need to be long, just impactful. Focus on her instinct, her frustration, not paragraphs of tactical planning.
Gotcha.
And crucially, when the clash happens, Scene 12, make the scale of that collateral damage really specific. Use those human assets. That line about the destroyer being tossed like a toy boat, that's it. That's the visual representation of her military authority just evaporating.
Okay. So by showing the futility of the GDF's actions, not just them being overpowered, we get huge thematic weight for Tanaka's realization. It forces the human response to shift from military to intellectual. Sets up the whole series' premise.
And that intellectual shift is absolutely vital, because the promise of the series is that these aren't just beasts. They're intelligent. It's kaiju geopolitics, right?
Which leads perfectly into the final point. If the whole series is about solving the Titan mystery, we can't wait too long to show there is a mystery to solve.
Right. So, third point. Use the GDF command analysts Tanaka and Thorne to establish the intelligence and potential communication of the Titans much earlier, right in Act 1. Turn the emergence from just a disaster into a terrifying intellectual puzzle from the start.
Okay, but the big discovery, the scene notes say, about dialogue or synchronization, scene 73-115, that comes kind of late in the first act.
That's the thing. It feels a bit late. If the core idea is purposeful action, the opening can't feel entirely chaotic, entirely like a natural disaster. We need stronger hints of that analytical mystery planted earlier.
The challenge, though, is making technical analysis visually interesting while, giant monsters are rising from the sea and earth. Got to keep the momentum. Avoid getting bogged down in technobabble.
True. So the suggestion is bring in Dr. Eris Thorne's perspective much sooner. The empath scientist, right? Seeking translation before termination. Weave that into the initial analysis of Leviathan's pulse.
How?
Link those energy readings to structured information right away. Don't just treat it as a threat signature. Thorne should be looking for patterns, for grammar, not just energy levels.
So you get that immediate conflict. Rostova wants to shoot the signal, Thorne wants to read it. Science versus instinct again.
Exactly. We need to see that intellectual effort happening in the command center scenes early on, Scene 02, Scene 08, when they show the holograms, the spectrograms.
Yeah?
Make sure the analysts are pointing out organized glyphs or fractal-like symbols in the pulse patterns, something that says structure before the big clash. That immediately positions Thorne as a key player, an intellectual counterweight.
It turns the spectacle into a code to be cracked, which is inherently unnerving. It implies thought, organization behind the raw power.
Yes, and then, to really pay it off, make sure the episode ends not just with destruction, but with that profound, scary scientific realization. Highlight those visual cues of the Titan signal interacting with GDF tech in scene 115.
That moment with a pulse pattern just locked onto our grid frequency?
Yes, and the line, "It's calling back." That's the kicker.
That final beat is huge. It means the audience leaves knowing they saw essentially a deliberate communication, leaves them with that intellectual hook for the whole series. It cements the idea humanity's facing an intelligent civilization, not just monsters.
It ensures that the very first move in this campaign plants the question that drives everything. What do they want?
Okay, this has been really insightful, focusing on maximizing that strategic depth that's already hinted at. So, quick recap of the actionable steps. First, really use that elemental contrast, cyan and ember, to show strategic intent. Make the first clash feel like a purposeful territorial claim.
Not just a brawl. Second, really amplify humanity's irrelevance. Let Rostova try and fail to impose control, making Tanaka's realization they're here for each other, a really powerful genre shift.
And finally, seed the Titan intelligence earlier. Use Thorn and Tanaka, show structured patterns in the signals right away. Confirm this as an intellectual puzzle, a communication challenge, not just brute force.
The foresight in this script, planting those seeds about purpose and the eventual economy, it's really strong. Tightening these three areas just makes that first episode perfectly launch the whole Titanverse.
Excellent. We are definitely eager to see the revised script incorporating these ideas. Keep working on it, and absolutely feel free to submit the updated version back to us for another look down the line.
Yeah, keep pushing that vision. We'll be here.